We're going to take a look at the Magic Mask 2.0 in this video. This is an AI-driven qualification tool that represents a generational step forwards compared to the original Magic Mask. This tool is used to select contiguous regions of color, rather like the Magic Wand's default settings in Photoshop, but for the moving image. Now, if any mention of the Magic Wand makes you roll your eyes, don't be so hasty. The Magic Mask 2.0 is actually quite an improvement over the previous version, and has some genuinely good use cases, albeit with a few caveats. The first use case of which is to generate a usable secondary key, and that is what we are going to do in this video. Now, we're familiar with the short sequence by now. We've got this shot and we want to key out the skin of the actress, but we already know we have a problem. The wall is the same color as the skin and is almost impossible to exclude from the key whilst adequately keying out the skin tones of the actress. I've also lost the shadows under the neck here as well. Remember I said that Magic Mask 2 qualifies contiguous regions of color. That means that if there's any division between the qualified region of color, the face, for example, and the background, then the Magic Mask will only select the face. For example, it's not going to cross over the shadow in the hoodie here into the wall in order to qualify the wall. It will find the edges of the shape and it will stay within them. So on paper, the Magic Mask should easily and quickly allow us to qualify the skin tones of the actress and not also get the wall in this shot. This is one of the main use cases I have for Magic Mask 2 since its release. It's making it much easier to qualify skin out against similarly coloured backgrounds like red brick, timber, or exposed earth. It also does a good job of preventing hair from being included in the skin key, which was always a common problem before and resulted in a lot of additional garbage matting. So, let's take a closer look at this process. On this image, I want to key out the skin. Obviously, we've already done this, but this time, just because I say so, we cannot use any power windows and we have to use the Magic Mask instead. So I'm going to select Correct Node and expand the viewer. We'll open the interface and take a look. So the icon we want is this little person here in a frame against a checkered background. And this is the Magic Mask 2 interface. It's quite similar to the tracker interface. Now, if you're familiar with After Effects, I urge you to resist any comparison you may make with the roto brush. They're not as similar as they first appear. What we want to do is place tracking markers down within the region we want to highlight. The Magic Mask then does its best to figure out what the boundaries of this region are and then computes a mask frame by frame as it tracks. I want to start and make sure that this additive pipette symbol is active here, and then I'm going to click on the forehead of the actress to place a tracking point. I've got my Show Mask Overlay toggled on. I will just turn that off for now. And now we will track forwards. Give it a second and it will do its thing. Now let's review the mask by clicking this double square icon on the upper right of the window. It will produce a mask overlay which is okay-ish at first, but we do need to do some work here. Let's scrub back and take a look. So that's not bad. We have some chattering problems around the edge. Earlier on we have a little issue with the ear here, some things that need to be smoothed out. Also, we have a very hard boundary between the hair and the skin that needs to be blurred out as well. So we wouldn't use this as a usable secondary key. We might use this as an element of a garbage mat when making a qualification and combining our secondary tools. So one thing I want to show you is that we can actually place any number of tracking points down that we want. So I might want to place another one down here on the neck or on the sternum. And then I can track forwards. Note that I've gone right back to the start of the clip again. If we want to add a new tracking point, to start with, click this button first. This is Go to Reference Frame. The reference frame is the frame that you placed your first tracking point down on, and that's kind of the origin point for your track. So we click this, and it will just jump back to where we are. I can then place my second tracking point, and then we can track forwards. And that's if I just wanted to stabilize the area of the neck. What I would not do is try and track the ear because it disappears. So we're going to have to try and refine that out later on. So we've taken a look at our mask. It's okay, but we need to deal with the chattering issues. So far, we've been in the default fast mode, mostly useful for making garbage mats to help with other keys, and typically doesn't produce a usable key stable enough to work within by itself. But we'll change the mode to better. Now, when we change from fast to better, we are going to have to redo our track again. If we make a big change, like place a new point down, or change from fast to better, or change the smart refine, more on that later, we have to track all over again. You'll see, however, in better that the boundary between the skin and the hair is much better. It looks much better around the ear. There might be a little bit of positive spill around the hoodie, but we can deal with that. So we'll track again. And this does take a lot of CPU power, but it's quite a powerful effect. Okay, so this is generally looking pretty good and stable. We've got a bit of false positive on the hoodie here. The ear's looking great there. The neck and the sternum's looking good. We've got chatter in here. And we've got chatter around the ear and in the neck shadow. So we have to do a bit of work here. Now, we can get lost twiddling all of the sliders down here, but what will make the biggest difference is Smart Refine. And in this case, we actually want to reduce it, not increase it. I find the default value can actually be a little heavy-handed, and in this case, setting it to 10 will go a long way. I'm not going to click and drag the slider because it will lag and jump all the way to one side. I'm going to click on 30, double click on 30 and type in 10. This will really test the, the capability of your workstation. Now, if we change Smart Refine, we have to track again, and we should see that this has made quite an improvement. So now, there's still a bit of chatter, but it's not as bad as it was. We can use things like blur, denoise, etc. to fix this. So let's take a look at what we want to do down here. So I'm going to keep it to a light touch. I'm mostly going to blur. And the blur radius goes very, very high on this setting. It goes way higher than you'd ever need to use it. But a good healthy amount of blur. And I also want some denoise to help soothe the chatter down as well. And a bit of post filter just to soften it out some more. And we might just expand the I/O ratio so we don't lose the edge of the face. So let's take a look at what that's doing now. So that's more stable than it was. We can add a bit of clean white and we can clean black. And clean black will help get rid of the false positive in the halo down here. And we might just want to put a bit more I/O ratio out. Let's just take a look. So this is actually a pretty good key. Now, there is still chatter. It's not going to be perfect, because even the HSL key wouldn't get this perfectly. We just need to not be reckless with the adjustments we make within this mask. One of the things I do want to look at is the possibility of a halo around the forehead and nose when she turns her face as well. I'm going to check that, and we've got little bits of halo down here. We want to try and do something about the halo. Now, we can do something about this halo, though what we're about to do can become time-consuming. We have the option to paint onto our frame and adjust the key, but this is a frame-by-frame operation with no interpolation. We have to paint over every relevant frame. This is awkward, and using a brush with no interpolation easily produces chatter as opposed to a vector mask with clean interpolation of motion, which has cleaner edges. To use the brush tools, we want to click on this brush negative icon up here. This is the paint off. This is negative brush. And now we can scrub to where we have the halo. So around here is where it becomes most pronounced. And what I want to do, I can just left click to paint. And I can also hit this icon down here, change my brush size a little bit. There we go. And then I can go up here and I can actually paint and remove parts of the mask this way. And I'm just going to paint around the edges. And then I need to step forwards by a frame and do the same thing wanting to be careful that I don't introduce chatter of my own. Now, a control surface with a graphics tablet makes this a lot easier and more intuitive. I want to focus mainly on the nose here and the base of the lip. And we're just going to do this for every frame. Like I said, probably a little bit faster than Roto. So now we have a workable key. I'm going to turn the review off. And I can carry out my correction within this qualification. And I don't want to be too heavy-handed here. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can do something about these silvery highlights on the skin. I'm going to add a bit of skin color to the face and then bring the overall saturation down. And that's just going to take those kind of silvery high reflection highlights off. And I might even go in here and just taking off splines for the time being, just very slightly bring those highlights down. So before, after, we might dial that back a little bit. And this just evens out the skin tone, gets rid of those silvery highlights. She's looking a little maybe overexposed here. And this is just evening out the skin tone. There we go. And just kind of addressing the exposure there. So simple skin tone adjustment just to bring highlights back under control. So this has been a good introduction to the new Magic Mask. In the next lecture, we will look at how to use this tool to generate garbage mats quickly and help us make detailed qualifications much faster in conjunction with our other secondary qualification tools. Click on through to the next lecture once you're ready.